What's up guys, and welcome back to Pop Beat Breakdowns. Now this is a really interesting video I wanted to make today because there is a debate about using samples in production. Is it cheating? Is it something that does it hold you back from being a better producer? Well, I wanted to kind of do this little experiment where I use just Splice to create a production to see if it's limiting, to see if it creates better music, and just get an overall sort of like conclusion of what I actually think of using samples myself. Now, as a first start off, I don't think there's anything wrong with using samples, but some people have a different opinion, and that's completely fine. And I wanted to use this video today to kind of introduce the thought of doing it. And we got a disco pop beat, kind of Sabrina Carpenter type beat. I knew before I started making this beat that it was the type of beat I wanted to make, so I had to navigate Splice to find exactly the ideas I had in my head and try and relay them into Logic without creating them myself, because that's going to be the most challenging part of this. So we're going to waste no time, we're going to get into it. This is a new form of content, by the way, so we're going to be doing longer videos. So if you enjoy breakdowns, stay around to the end of this video because it's going to be a longer video today, but we're going to be breaking down everything from the structure to how we created the chords using Splice samples and just everything, every detail, because that's what you guys want, so I'm going to deliver it for you. And if you are new to this channel, by the way, make sure you smash that subscribe button right now, as it's the best way to support the channel. And also, if you want to get hold of some sample packs after this video, similar to the samples you hear in this video that you can use in your own productions, highly recommend you go to Samples by Joe Gauchi, which is my sample pack store. I'll leave a link in the comments and a description below, so you can go check it out. Currently running a sale on there, which is lasting till the end of November, so there's certainly no rush. But if you want to check out and support the channel that way by buying some packs, I really appreciate it. So this is the project in front of me. Now I'm done waffling, and I feel like the best thing to do first would be able to show you the first idea that I added. What was this all built around? So we've got the track right here. I'll give you a quick play of the whole thing so you can hear exactly what it is we're breaking down. We'll just play from the pre-chorus to the end of the chorus, which is here. So you get the idea. So we started with this sample right here. Now everything is added in the order that it's been added except this, because I did the guitar first and I wanted the drums at the top. I have this thing about having drums at the top of a production, so it is what it is. But this was the first idea that I found, and it was this sample right here. So it's in D sharp major, so that's the one thing we're going to have to keep in mind going forward. Now, one thing I did do was when I was searching in the Splice, I picked the BPM and I said guitar. So I typed in guitar, 120 BPM, and this is what it came up with. I didn't choose the key myself. This is the key I was given, and it's the key we went with. So the first thing I thought I would do was to add an actual whole drum beat. Normally I like to add the kicks and everything individually, but I thought for this video I'd actually just add the drum beat to see if it actually created anything cool. And at this point we are building around the chorus, so everything down here is what I built first. And I found this really cool drum beat, which I'll solo by itself for now. As you can see, I've chopped up the end because we had a nice fill at the end, and I wanted the fill to be separate because I like to have gaps in drums before you enter a new section sometimes, because it gives the track a chance to breathe. So as you can see here, I did chop off at the end here. And with the guitar, I kind of like how lazy the guitar sounded. This is when I knew it was going to be a really good idea. Now, I dived into the same sample pack I got the guitar from, because sometimes you get an accompanied bass line or something like that with it, and I really wanted to focus on the bass next. And luckily, there was a bass which the producer had made to go with this guitar, so I added it in. And luckily, I love the rhythm, because normally when you're doing a rhythm section with the drums and the bass, they have to flow together. So I listened to the bass and the drums together before I added it in, just to be sure, and I think it's really cool. Creates a really nice bounce. And at this point, we've really got the chords established. It is a 2-chord song, which makes life a lot easier for us at this point. But it's still tricky, because now I want to start adding new elements. And I found this piano right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the piano out so you can hear the whole sample. So this sample by itself, this is what I found in Splice. But the chords don't really line up with the bass line. So what I've done is I've actually chopped, as you can see, the chords here to slightly change the chords. Now, what's really interesting about this, and the problem I do have with Splice, is sometimes I don't get the keys 100% right. This is actually a sample which was 120 BPM, and I downloaded it with the idea that I was going to pitch correct this up, but it was said it was in C minor, but when you actually throw the piano in as it is, it actually works really well. So I just decided, hey, I'm just going to keep that in, you know, because it makes sense to. So moving on to new ideas, at this point, I want to add some guitar in. So I just found a guitar playing a D muted, very easy thing to find in Splice. And it just, again, it accompanies the rhythm section really well, but that was just an easy Splice sample to find, especially when you're trying to add ideas. I just feel like if I can bulk out the production at this point, I can get the best understanding of what I need to add to have this chorus sounding as full as possible. So when we added the guitar, again, I'm still really heavily focusing just on the rhythm section. So I took a breather from everything. I just focused on the drums, and I found these two extra samples. So we got a clap and we got a shaker. Very cool. Now, what's very interesting about this Oliver percussion, I mean, if you use samples on Splice, you would have heard of Oliver and his sample packs, especially if you listen to Sabrina Carpenter Espresso. The guitar sample is from one of his packs, and I've actually used it in my own beats as well because it's royalty-free. Now, this sample was actually 110 BPM when I put this in, and the track's 120. So how I got the audio up to 120 BPM was I used the flex, and if you turn on the flex for everything that I had so far on the audio, you can quantize it to the track. So when you actually turn down the BPM, as you can see for these quantized tracks here, they stay to the BPM. So I could basically time stretch the claps to be on 120 BPM. So it worked, which is really cool. And it's a very good thing to know to do because it gives you that control of the audio files a lot more. Now we move on to the pads. So the pads, again, similar story to the piano. We didn't have the right chords. I found this sample and I needed to chop it up because the chords were in there just in the wrong order. So I did that with this pad. And a little trick I've done here is because the pad wasn't flowing between the chords, what I've actually done is I've overlapped them so we don't lose any of that decay or reverb that you get from the chords when we're transitioning to a different chord. So it keeps it nice and smooth. So there's a little bit of like a roll off here and roll in, as I like to say. Just makes it sound smooth, and just, you know, just to keep everything nice and clean, I did put it into a mini track stack just so it's all safe. But so far, when you listen to what we've added so far, the track's already coming together. Now at this point I'm thinking, okay, we now need to really think about the chorus, because just how I personally like to produce this, I like to get all my eggs in one basket and then spread. Especially if this is going to be a 2-chord song, I thought, well, I might as well just build up the bulk of the production before I start thinking about the structure. So next I did the crash. Very simple at this point, because a lot of this is very simple. Just find a crash which works. Then I found a reverse crash, and the beautiful thing is, because I use Splice a lot just for like adding little ideas when I'm producing my own music, I have pre-saved sounds, which I really like. So fortunately, it's not cheating for this challenge because I'm still using Splice samples. But again, these are some of my go-to crash sounds, which is really cool. And we've also got some more down here, which I'll just quickly show. We've got white noise. And just a little bit of audio editing, we have reversed the audio of this white noise. So the original white noise sample was, in fact, this. But when you reverse it, you get this. And it just creates a really nice transition between sections, and I always like to have white noise in there. I just think white noise just adds that little something to chorus. If it's like that delicate sort of like noisy texture, which kind of adds to the atmosphere of the track. So I always like to try and add white noise, and especially for these kinds of beats. So yeah, it is what it is. So I did pass on this one just so I could show you the rest of the drums. But then I added this vocal pad, and we haven't done much here. except just tune it up to the key it was in. I found this was a 120. It was in the key of A major, and we're in D sharp. So I had to tune it up 6 semitones, and I just keep tuning up till it sounds like it's in key. So it's like a nice little pad, and we just add... It basically sorts the whole atmosphere and the ambience of the track out really well. So again, and this is what I love about audio, it's how much control you actually have. You have a lot more control over audio than you think you do, and it's really easy. So at this point, there isn't really a lot more that I've added to the production other than these last 2 ideas. So I went into Splice because I kind of had like a Dua Lipa kind of inspirational idea in my head, having some string which just stamps at the start of the bars. And I just found this D major chord, which just sounded really cool, so I added it in. I did actually add some reverb, which I don't think is cheating, it's just a little bit of reverb, it's nothing fancy, just to kind of like increase the decay time of the string. Because without it, it kind of just sounded like it ended a bit quickly. Doesn't sound as good, so adding in that reverb just gives that really nice sort of like warm, like almost like retro sound. Which is very suiting this kind of music. So, then the last thing to talk about is this synth right here. Again, same story, had the right BPM, it was even in the right key, it was just the chords were in the wrong order to what we were playing. So again, I've chopped this up, and we've just done a little bit of can't even think of the word, little fade, crossfade, that's the one, crossfade, just so it's all together. And as you already know, you've heard it, this is the finished production. So, now let's talk about the actual structure, because we've got a 2-chord song here, we've got all these samples to play with, we want to basically try and produce a whole track of it, which doesn't sound too boring. Like, we need to have kind of that development. So once I built the track, this actually here, this is the original stack. So when I was building it up, all the samples were here first. So I built up the production, and I thought, okay, I'm going to add an intro now, because I wanted to go for that kind of structure like Espresso Sabrina Carpenter, where you kind of get the chorus straight away. So I started with this intro. And as you can see here, again, we chopped from the drums, so we had this really nice little fill, which adds as like an introduction into the chorus. And that's just same for this, from the same drum beat, just chopping it up. Now, again, like, it's just the same chords all the way through. And what we've just done here is we've got white noise just to start it, and we're just keeping it simple. We kind of like to use the intro as a chance just to introduce the feel of the song before we actually get into it. So yeah, again, nothing fancy going on here. And then we hit the chorus, and as you can see here, then we just got a little cut out of the drums. This is just give the drums a break. It's really important, especially when you're using the same drum beat like I am in this production, to give the drum a break at times. Like we give it a break in the bridge here, and then just at the end of the pre-chorus going into the chorus, again, we give the drums a break just to give the track a chance to breathe before we get into each section. And it's the same with the verse as well. And then we go into the verse, and we just keep it really simple. Now, I really love this reverse crash because it kind of keeps the feel going just enough as the crash decays, and then it goes into kind of like a very minimal verse. At this point, because you've got to think about the vocals as well. The vocals are going to be in there when someone buys this beat. So at this point, it's just the verse. And the vocal takes over the majority of the production at this point. It's going to be at the forefront. And then when it gets to the pre-chorus, again, it's all about starting to add that keyword of development. So in this next 4-bar development, we then get the addition of the pads, a shaker, we get the piano as well, kind of like starting to give a little teaser of what the chorus has in store. And then I think we do need to have some kind of changes. So what I've done here is then I've added the white noise in with the reverse, so it's like building up, and also the same with the reverse crash. Because, again, the chorus could be doing most of the work. We've got the strings here as well, adding that stamp. So it builds, and then the break comes. There you go. Now, when it comes to the second time round, again, this is a very simple production, I will admit. So when it comes to the second time round doing the pre-chorus, we need to have changes. Because if the production is just the same and you copy and paste the whole thing, it's going to sound boring to the listener because they've heard it all before. So what I really focused on doing was just adding subtle changes in the next second verse and the second pre-chorus to make it different from the first. So we got the addition of the shaker in the first verse. It sounds very silly, but honestly, it just needs to be simple. Just one extra thing can make all the difference to the listener, because the listener's like, oh, this sounds different. And in the pre-chorus, we've got the addition of the pad here for the pre-chorus, just to bulk out the pre-chorus a little bit more, so it feels like it has a little bit more production than the first time round. Little things like this make a massive difference in production, because you've got to remember the vocals still got to go in this as well, so it's just something to think about. And then we've got the chorus here. This time we're going 2 times round, because I feel like the vocalist could either double up the chorus, or they could have a little kind of section where they go into vocal ad-libs, which would be quite fun. Before we get into the pre-chorus, now, the bridge rather, because when I get into the bridge, you really want the song to kind of take a break before the big finale on the final chorus. So just listen to see what it does. Complete breakdown. Now, because this is kind of a disco song, I did want to try and keep some sort of percussive element in there, so I kept the claps in, as you can hear. But again, it's just the pads taking over at this point. And in the second 4 bars, we get a little bit more, just so you know, it's just so the listener knows it's building back up to something. And then this is interesting here. What I like to do sometimes at the end of the bar, just add an extra bar of silence, because then all of a sudden it gives the listener that kind of like on edge feeling, like, oh, is the song finished or is there something coming? Like, or the pause. It's kind of like when you're in a club and you listen to the drop of a song, where a song builds, and then you get that sort of like pause. Like it's very common, and it can really make that final chorus hit a lot bigger than if you just had it straight in after the 4th bar. So you get the pause. Yeah, and I just added in the string there as well, just as a little like something. So there's something like, oh, that wasn't expected, kind of came out of nowhere kind of feel. So then by the time you go around to the end chorus, you're just left with kind of like an outro. And an outro I kind of like to start taking away, but not take away everything at once, because I do like an outro in a song. Like a lot of songs nowadays that end with just like you have the final chorus and then boom, quietness. I don't like that. Sometimes you like a song to kind of like naturally just fade out by itself. So it's really important just to have the main fundamental, like the first spark of inspiration at the end as well as at the start. And again, like at this point, the vocalists can do whatever they want before it ends. And that's it. That's production. Now, when it comes to mastering, again, we've kept it so simple. I've literally just used Logic's mastering just to do this, because I'd never like to go too over the top on mastering, because there's still a vocalist who's got to record a vocal over it, and then they're going to get it mixed and mastered as well. So I like to try and keep it as simple as possible. Now, if we're going to quickly talk about panning as well, the only thing I've done genuinely is on these tracks here, which is the shaker and the claps. I've just put a stereo delay on one just to give it a little bit more of an interesting feel. I've got a sample delay on the guitar, the muted guitar, to bring out to the sides of the mix so it's not straight down the middle. And then the shaker, I've got a chorus effect on to put it out to the sides of the mix as well. This setting right here will ensure as well that you can make any audio signal go to the sides of the mix without adding any modulation, because chorus is a type of modulation. And that is literally the whole production. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to sign off here, but I'm going to let the song play through one more time so you can hear it. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you smash the subscribe button. It's the best way to support the channel. And if you've got any more questions, comment them below. But yeah, let's have one more listen to the track. So there you go, guys. That's the beat, and that is the challenge of creating a beat using just Splice samples. Yeah, guys. So until next time, guys, keep making music, and I'll see you in the next video.